Hi, my name is Dayna Brislane, and I'm a fourth-year visual communication design student. I wrote a standard thesis with the help of Dr. Linda King titled High Society, From Frightful Perversions to Chill Intentions, The Role of Visual Communications in Shaping the United States' Relationship with Cannabis. In this presentation, I'll be specifically focusing on the way that a simple plant has been portrayed in vastly different ways and how these communications changed what cannabis is in the eyes of the American public over the last 100 years. For historical context, the first evidence of the cultivation of cannabis for human consumption dates back to 12,000 BC in Central Asia. It was used in ancient China, India, Greece, Egypt, and Rome to treat Parkinson's disease, arthritis, tics from Tourette's, depression, asthma, and menstrual pain. It was a very popular mild intoxicant in Islamic regions where alcohol was prohibited. In the two photos shown, we see people rallying for the legalization of cannabis. On the left are two women at a pro-legalization rally in the 1960s, and on the right we see activists holding up a 15.5-meter inflatable joint in Washington, D.C. in 2019. At the time the first photo was taken, only 12% of the American public were in favor of recreational legalization. However, in the present day, 60% of the American public are in favor of cannabis legalization. This means that for the first time in 100 years, it's very possible that cannabis could be legalized again. This presentation will explore how opinions surrounding cannabis have shifted. Prior to the 1930s, most Americans did not know what cannabis was. It was sometimes prescribed as a pain medication, but was not a popular drug. However, the Great Depression led to spikes in xenophobia and racism, and cannabis came to be associated with two groups: Mexican immigrants and African Americans. On the left, we see Mexican revolutionary leader Pancho Villa smoking cannabis. In the 1930s, the Federal Bureau of Narcotics began to refer to cannabis as marijuana, which meant good feeling in Mexico, to strengthen the association between cannabis and the Hispanic community. On the right, we see Louis Armstrong. He was considered to be one of the original potheads. It is said he smoked every day of his adult life. Many jazz singers smoked cannabis, and it even inspired songs like Reefer Man and All the Jive Is Gone. Criminalizing cannabis gave legal precedent to further oppress these demographics, and in the first year of Prohibition, African Americans made up 78% of marijuana-related arrests. In the 1930s and 40s, reefer madness movies came out with unfounded exaggerations on the dangers of marijuana use. A group of white teenagers would typically be lured into smoking and then engage in premarital sex, parties, and even suicide. Each poster depicts a woman in various states of undress. They appear both despairing and sexual. The jagged lines, capitalized letters, and bold colors create a sense of urgency and drama. They are so intense they are comedic, with lines like "dope created ecstasy, avalanching into frightful perversions," and "deadly scourge that drags our children into the quagmires of degradation." These films stood as warnings to anyone who was tempted to try cannabis. This rhetoric lasted for the remainder of the 20th century. Equally dramatic and condemning posters from the Partnership for a Drug-Free America and Smart Set Stamp Out Stupidity warned of what would happen to you, your life, and your brain if you dared to try cannabis. This rhetoric was matched in policy. Two separate government-funded studies, one conducted in the 1940s and one in the 1970s, found that cannabis had low potential for abuse, posed little threat to society, had great medical potential, and should be decriminalized. These reports, though funded by the government, were completely ignored, and cannabis came to be classed as a Schedule I drug, deemed to be more dangerous than the drugs in Schedule II, which include cocaine, PCP, and crystal meth. This policy and harsh sentencing has led to an environment where every 90 seconds somebody in the United States is arrested for marijuana-related charges. This rhetoric has completely flipped in the last 10 years, with trends towards decriminalization. So far, 37 states have legalized marijuana for medical use, and 18 states have legalized it for recreational use. Sociology professor Stephen Miles wrote that we can begin to talk about consumerism as a way of life. Though there are several reasons for a trend in decriminalization, I wanted to briefly touch on one of the main factors: the profits. America has always been driven by capital, and it seems that the profits cannabis could yield are simply too big to ignore. The cannabis industry last year made $25 billion. The annual budget for Ireland for the same year was €21,006,000,000. Another reason for a trend in decriminalization could be exposure to innocuous use in media. While the 1930s showed crazed teens dying in ridiculous ways after one joint, contemporary media shows lovable characters in comedies lighting up and mellowing out. Even Disney has shown cannabis use in its new show, Reservation Dogs. In the episode pictured above, they discuss how white men stuck swaths of the Black, Indigenous, and people of color, or BIPOC communities, in prison for minor possession offenses for decades, and now are making millions off dispensaries. Other examples of use in media include Pineapple Express, On My Block, Broad City, and Grace and Frankie. Netflix, a multi-billion-dollar media conglomerate which reaches 207 million people globally, are so confident in the positive trend towards cannabis use that they made their very own line of cannabis strains. Each tin has a strain of cannabis specifically tailored towards one of their shows for an entire viewing experience. For example, the strain Banana Stand Kush is to be paired with the show Arrested Development. Because the show is a comedy, the cannabis strain gives an uncontrollable laughing high. Other shows that can be paired with include Orange is the New Black, BoJack Horseman, and Grace and Frankie. Pictured here are some examples of traditional cannabis paraphernalia. On the left are grinders, in the middle is a bong, and on the right are pipes. However, the market is very different today, and if you Google any of these products, you might be more likely to find something like this. Pictured on the left is the 3-piece ashtray, grinder, and pipe from the brand Tokyo Smoke. It costs about $150 and is a beautifully balanced object of ridged pink glass. It is pictured here being used by a woman of advanced years, moving away from the typically male, college-aged stoner trope. Furthermore, she has perfectly manicured nails and expensive-looking jewelry, alluding to the sense of luxury. This idea suggests that anybody of legal age can participate in cannabis consumption, and it is no longer just for the stereotype. The report, Aesthetic Package Design, a behavioral, neural, and psychological investigation, found that aesthetic design triggers a higher willingness to pay and care for a product. The beauty and price tag exude a sense of luxury not previously associated with cannabis. On the right are pipes by the company Laundry Day. They are designed by women for women, and the idea is that they will look like modern art in anyone's home. Women now are the majority of cannabis consumers at 59%. The company also supports a cyclical rotation of charities helping support BIPOC communities affected by cannabis laws and drug arrests. Through the self-care movement, cannabis has somewhat returned to its original use as a medicine. On the left we see Precision Edibles by 1906. They claim to create specific types of highs tailored towards their users' needs, including energy, brain power, happiness, arousal, relaxation, and sleep. They claim to aid the user to do tasks like putting together IKEA furniture, tuning out squabbling siblings, and allowing for heart-opening exploration. I'm not sure how accurate any of these claims are, but it's interesting to see cannabis visually communicated in this way. On the right, we see the CBD-laced tampons by the company Day. Their goal is to reduce the amount of paracetamol consumed by women, which can lead to high rates of kidney failure. They lace their tampons with CBD, which relaxes the muscles that tend to cramp during menstruation directly at the source. Cannabis's role in society has been completely shaped by its portrayal in visual communications over the last 100 years. It has been a scourge on society, leading to frightful perversions. It has been a tool of racial oppression, leading to devastation. And it has been a medicine and has been sold into a product worth billions of dollars. I think this story is an example of the power of graphic design in shaping the way societies think and act. Thank you.